welcome to those who've joined. I think we'll kick off in a couple of minutes here, Marcus, once everyone
Correct.
comes in.
Yep. All right, cool. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today on our really highly requested webinar, which is Understanding the Industrial OT Landscape with the Claroty portfolio. And this is a really good introduction to the OT landscape, the OT cybersecurity world. And this is almost going to be a good beginner's guide to ensuring that you're effectively not only going to be assisting your customers with deploying these OT security measures into their environments, but understanding as well the importance of OT security, where it fits into a cybersecurity landscape, and the challenges that we also face when it comes to OT. So we're going to be running this webinar because we know that through the channel, people are at different levels with their OT understanding, and some are just starting their OT security journey. And we want to give a solid introduction into what the operational technology world looks like, regardless of if you're just starting out with OT or you've been working with OT systems for a long time now. And of course, I'm joined here with Leon from Claroty, our ANZ Regional Director, an absolutely phenomenal resource in the channel who assists our partners with delivering effective OT security solutions. And I'll get him to introduce himself and the team in a second. This session is recorded. We know a few people can't make it today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them into the chat box and we can either answer them here or we can get back to you with an answer after the webinar. So we'll run through the agenda quickly. So our agenda today, we're going to be going through our team, introducing our team, the Claroty and the Wavelink team, and giving you an overview of what OT security in our modern networking world looks like and what a typical CPS cybersecurity journey looks like. We're also going to introduce the Claroty portfolio and the problems that we solve with Claroty's portfolio, and also very highly requested question, the key integrations and who Claroty integrates with. I'll also be going through the partner program, and we'll also be running through what the competitive landscape looks like. And at the end, we'll go through some power questions, what to do after this webinar, and of course, we'll be going through the Q&A. So Leon, I'll get you to introduce yourself and the Claroty team.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Marcus. My name's Leon Pajoli. I'm the ANZ Regional Director at Claroty. Most of my focus is on the industrial side, but it's not just me. It's not just me and an SE. We've got quite a large team covering the Australia New Zealand region, and that includes support and deployment personnel. So we do have local support, local deployment people here in Australia. I would add that we only provide our own deployment personnel where a partner's not available to do it. Our business is purely focused on software solutions, and we don't really look to make money out of services. Everything we do is via partners, so we don't do any direct transactions with customers. So this is a very channel-friendly business, particularly on the services side, as you build up your capability. The other thing I'll add is we also have a healthcare practice. So, in spite of what you might be reading in the news about, hospitals really struggling financially, particularly private hospitals, we've had some really great success in Australia with some of the larger private healthcare organisations using Claroty's healthcare product, which is a very similar kind of capability, but focused on a clinical network lens versus an industrial cybersecurity lens. So we've got a broad team there here to help you have those first conversations. And as you build up your capabilities and knowledge, you're going to be able to have more of those conversations yourselves and leverage us to support you where you need support driving deals. I'm based in Melbourne, but we have people all around Australia doing different roles, and we're always happy to jump on a plane if we have to help you close a deal.
Thank you, Leon. So I'll introduce you to our team. So there's obviously myself and Kieran O'Brien, who are part of the channel enablement team at Wavelink, who ensure that you have the right tools, training, and the resources through your distribution channels. We've got Ana Gomez, who's our marketing manager, and she works really hard to make sure that we can successfully bring these events to you. We have Rashid, our pre-sales lead, who assists our partners with the technical knowledge to, of course, deploy Claroty and other vendors that we distribute for efficiently and effectively. And we have Anna Perez and Dennis Valente who work hand in hand with our vendors to ensure that we can seamlessly get our vendor solutions to you. We are based in Melbourne and Sydney, but of course we do have resources all over Australia as well. So I think we'll go into the webinar now. Next slide, Leon, if possible. So as I mentioned prior, many people are on different levels of understanding with OT. So we'll kick off with some of the basics quickly before we dive in. When we talk about operational technology, we're referring specifically to the hardware and software that monitors and controls physical devices, processes, and infrastructure, which is unlike our IT segment, which focuses on data and applications. And we'll touch on that briefly soon. But today we're focusing specifically on industrial environments. And OT is found in industries such as your manufacturing, oil, gas, utilities, transportation. But interestingly enough, even though today we are focusing on industrial environments, many people aren't aware that OT technology is being used in a variety of different industries such as healthcare, construction, and even warehousing too. And when we refer to OT, we're really talking about systems such as industrial control systems, SCADA systems, PLCs, which are really essential for managing and automating industrial processes. And a really important point here going forward is that we often utilize our IT systems to help us gain efficiency out of automating our OT systems. And the integration with OT and IT is a very key component of the industry that we're currently in, and it's often referred to as IT OT convergence, which is a really important part of understanding this webinar. Next slide, please, Leon. So to help, we're just going to quickly define some key terminology just to help understand a bit more of these terms that we're going to be using and assist in understanding the use cases. So as I briefly mentioned, when we refer to OT, a major part of this is the devices that actually control the physical processes. And we refer to these and they're known as CPS devices or cyber physical systems, which are physical devices with software built into them that influences physical processes. So in short, machines that perform actions. So when we refer to CPS, that's what we're talking about. And this is very different to IT systems where information technology is using computers to exchange and store electronic data. And you'll already be able to see the parallels and the problems that this may cause. We have systems with very similar technology. However, because the goals of these systems are different, therefore the design language changes, and hence the way we secure these systems is not the same. For example, with our IT systems, a lot of the time, we're generally safe to shut down a system for a bit to install a patch or update a firmware because our IT systems are prioritizing data confidentiality and security. However, with our OT systems, in most cases, stopping a system in any capacity is going to have a direct negative business impact on operations. And these OT systems are designed with availability and reliability in mind. So every second that these systems are down can be financially catastrophic for some businesses. But of course, in our modern working world, and especially after the pandemic, where we have such a broad interconnectivity now between these two systems, they really do have to transmit data and share capabilities between each other. And this can range from real-time data exchange all the way to changing the speed of a conveyor belt in a manufacturing plant, for example. So the key takeout here is that most CPS devices were never designed with the interconnectivity to IT in mind. And hence, you're going to find sometimes that a robust security framework is going to be quite lacking. So, Leon, I'll pass it over to you. As a distributor, one of the biggest pieces of feedback that we receive is that we don't know where to start with securing our OT systems. So, where do we start?
Yeah, absolutely, Marcus. And the funny thing is, it doesn't actually start with technology. In a lot of cases, actually, it starts with a cybersecurity leadership or cybersecurity leader, like a CISO or a security manager, building a relationship with those OT asset owners. Because the most successful projects we've done have been where OT and IT have been sitting together at the same table, driving the project jointly. And, for those who aren't so technical, this might be a little bit of a complicated slide, but, effectively, as you start to have these conversations with customers, you'll find a lot of mention about things like the Purdue model, which is where everything above the purple dotted line is IT and everything below the purple dotted line is OT, simplistically speaking. And that goes all the way down from your, jump hosts and historians, HMIs, engineering workstations, right down to the field devices that actually are doing things. And, the interesting contrast in the IT versus the OT world is in the IT, the biggest cybersecurity issue is probably something like data loss or privacy issue. In the OT world, a cyber attack is going to impact things like safety and production, which is what they care about. And that's certainly the coaching that I give to cybersecurity leaders to build a relationship with an OT asset owner is not come in and go, hey, we need you to get on board with this cybersecurity program. It starts with a conversation of, hey, we're thinking about how a cyber attack could impact safety or production in your plant. Help me learn a bit more about your environment so that we can give you the right business outcome. And this is kind of where our technology fits in to help understand the environment and understand how they can reduce risk and make those organizations more safer in terms of their OT environment. The other interesting thing I've observed is if your customer has an OT network, that's probably where they make most of their money. So it really needs a lot more attention than it traditionally has gotten in the past. And as OT networks become more digitized, there's a lot more technology coming in, which means there's a lot more cyber risk coming in at the same time. It just has a very different impact to the IT world. So what are some of those current challenges that people wrestle with? And these are great seed questions to ask someone you've got a good relationship with about, well, are these some of the things you're worried about? A lot of the time, and this is actually a really great way to get OT asset owners on board, is they don't actually have a clear asset inventory of what their environment looks like. I'll talk about a real life example of a customer in New Zealand we put Claroty in for. And the main buyer was actually on the OT side versus the IT side, but it was quite interesting once we turned it on and showed them what their actual infrastructure looked like versus what they thought it looked like. They don't know where to start. OT environments are much less mature from a cyber perspective than IT environments. And you could say this is kind of the next phase of digital transformation as OT networks become more complex and have more technology and become more digitized to make them operate better and more efficiently. There's a corresponding higher level of cyber risk. So what I say to people actually starts with asset inventory, but I'll show you, I think it's the next slide, I'll show you what a typical customer journey looks like. And the beauty about this is it doesn't mention Claroty at all. It's more of a conceptual guideline that you can show a customer and help them share with you. They'll be able to look at that and share with you what resonates in terms of focus areas. They don't have relationships with those OT asset owners, and I'd say that's the key part of success for cyber leaders wanting to drive an OT cybersecurity program is to build a relationship with those OT and cyber physical system asset owners. It is a lot harder to fix issues in OT. So the classic we talk about here is vulnerabilities you might discover in OT environments. You're not just going to be able to push patches out every week like you can in the IT world in a lot of cases. It's probably going to be more likely to have some kind of compensating control like network segmentation or something like that to reduce the impact of that vulnerability versus just pushing a patch out or life cycling an end-of-life device. You're going to find a lot more end-of-life infrastructure in OT environments, and you're going to find a lot of vulnerabilities. And so that's why a big factor in terms of remediating the risks we find is helping customers prioritize. A list of 1,000 vulnerabilities in a factory is really not very helpful information because they don't know where to start. But if we can say of these 1,000 vulnerabilities, there are 3 that have known exploits and are reachable, well, that's actually a manageable number that a cyber leader can work with the OT asset owner to implement recommendations we give them to remediate those issues during the next scheduled maintenance window. So that's actually much more powerful business value than getting 1,000 vulnerabilities with CVSS scores and people don't know where to start. The other thing, and where this all points to, is we don't know what we don't know. So a lot of projects where you come in and they're still working through the requirements, they don't know. And to point number 2, they don't know where to start because they don't know what they don't know. And a great place to start is to go, well, let's get you an asset inventory at least. So you know what the attack surface looks like, and we can start to prioritize where you might turn your attention from a cybersecurity perspective. And even just getting that asset inventory day one is great value, particularly for OT asset owners. So here's a customer story. I'll share from a Claroty customer in Australia, New Zealand. This was a manufacturer, food and beverage manufacturer in New Zealand. Their initial use case was focused on asset inventory because this was driven by the OT people. As soon as they turned on Claroty, they actually found twice as many assets on average they thought they had at each location. And the reason for that is over time, you add new devices, you plan to turn off systems that never get decommissioned. Over time, you kind of had this entropy of different systems getting added by different project teams and things like that. So you don't actually, when you think you know what you know, when you turn on Claroty and get your live inventory, then all of a sudden you discover a whole lot of things you don't know. And that's just not just a cyber value of understanding your attack surface. There's also operational value because you can prioritize, well, what devices are most end of life that have an issue. I've got another customer we have in Australia that recently found out they had 400 real-time units, RTUs, in their spread across their network, where the manufacturer had gone out of business years ago. So, this all of a sudden puts them on the back foot in terms of having to refresh that infrastructure as a priority because they're not going to get spares or even support for that infrastructure. But, turning on Claroty, you'll know that immediately, and you can start to turn your attention from an operational perspective to remediate some of that operational risk that you didn't realize you had. So now that organization has a good understanding of what their attack surface looks like and where to focus their cyber program, their next step is sending alerts to their SOC of rogue devices that enter the network. So now they know what the live inventory looks like. When a new asset hits the network, they can determine, was that asset supposed to be added to the network, or is this a new asset that no one's approved getting added to the network? And that's their initial use case, but the journey takes time. And so the great news is there's going to be opportunities beyond deploying Claroty for you to help your customers interpret the information we're giving them and help them make additional investments to improve their cyber maturity around things like improved secure access and network segmentation, for example, with Fortinet firewalls and working with Wavelink on that piece of the puzzle. That's just one example, but I see examples like this all the time, very similar kinds of stories. So this is what a typical customer journey looks like, and I'll build it out over time. The key purpose is your cyber risk program for cyber physical systems is supported by these different stages, and it really starts with visibility and getting that asset inventory. Once you've done that, you know what you're working with, you know what the environment looks like, and you can execute several streams around things like vulnerability and exposure management, network segmentation, doing SecOps integration with the data we're seeing in the real time, and also improving your operational excellence. And the beauty of this slide is you can present this and not have anything to do with Claroty because it doesn't have anything to do with Claroty. Claroty is not mentioned here. It's more about a best practice approach, and Claroty happens to be the vehicle that gets you there. The reality is we're 20% of this. The rest of it is people and process. So in terms of exposure management, we find those blind spots and vulnerabilities, and we prioritize by known exploit and reachability. We validate that with business context and make remediation recommendations. Then the customer or yourself can implement compensating controls and demonstrate a risk reduction over time. So a big priority we're seeing right now is customers going, hey, I've got the IT vulnerability shop sorted. I don't know where to start with OT vulnerability because I can't just push scans out with my IT vulnerability solution. This is where Claroty can really come in and add a lot of value as an initial use case. Over time, you can build a longer term vision for them to do things like network security management, where we can understand what their network looks like, find those key risks, remove unsanctioned remote connections that happen everywhere, and replace them with a sanctioned secure access solution like the one we have. Implement better OT network segmentation, for example, with the zones conduits type model, and then show that reduced cyber risk and continue monitoring their network. It's the same thing with anomaly and threat detection, getting a baseline of what normal looks like, integrating, sending logs to your SIEM and integrating with the XDR, building those incident response playbooks, which are very different to IT incident response playbooks because of the different nature of the business and the criticality of shutting off critical systems, for example. And you run that SecOps function over time and tune your playbooks in partnership with those asset owners. And then finally, on the operational excellence front, the first piece of value we give is that asset inventory to the OT asset owners. We do that automatically. It doesn't take a long time. You can enrich that data with who owns the asset, what the criticality is, put that asset inventory into a CMDB, for example, ServiceNow, and then find operational improvements like end-of-life devices and help them better manage sparing at different asset locations. And you maintain that OT asset inventory over time. So I can tell you this slide really resonates. I'm happy to share it with people who are having conversations with customers, because I've shown it to customers and they've said, Leon, could I have this slide and present it internally? And I'm always happy to, because, hey, it's not about the Claroty sales pitch, it's about a best practice approach, and we can help customers get there using Claroty as a solution to simplify how we do this. So what does our product selection look like? It's effectively 3 solutions, which are kind of 2 solutions. So XDome and CTD are our OT field visibility platforms that execute a lot of that journey around what are the assets, what are the exposures, what are the recommendations to remediate those. The other solution we have is XDome. The point I make is that XDome is SaaS-based and CTD is on-prem. So there's certainly a lot of customers that still want to have an on-prem solution in their OT environment. There are some that say, hey, my network's air-gapped, so I don't need to worry about this. The only thing an air gap gives someone is a false sense of security, because unless they're monitoring that environment, how do they know it's actually air gapped? How do they update systems? You need to be continuously monitoring, even if a system is isolated from the outside world, because you want to validate that control is still in place, and you also want to watch for an insider threat. Certainly, delivering this solution as a SaaS is becoming more and more well received by customers. And there's a few benefits there around simplicity to deploy and scale, and better integrations with third-party platforms. The other thing we help people with is our secure access solution. So this is both available for people on premise, so it provides a secure gateway to touch those systems, so they're not logging into OT systems directly. It also allows secure remote access into those environments, particularly for third-party contractors. And a lot of the time, there's a very complex web of jump boxes and VPNs people are using to get into OT environments. This simplifies a lot of that, takes away the complexity, and also makes it more secure. Effectively, what we're trying to do with remote access is minimize that attack surface with a zero trust network access and identity governance administration process. So, integrate with multi-factor authentication, just-in-time provisioning of those users. You burn down their session at the end, and you can turn it back on very easily with approval. So effectively, you're providing much more granular control to specific servers for specific time windows. Turn off their access, turn on their access, turn it off again. You can watch their screen while they're logged in. You can record the sessions, and you can provide individual credentials. And I've heard some horror stories of customers where the cyber people get involved in what's happening at a site, and they realize they're all sharing the same login from someone who left the organization 5 years ago. This takes away all that risk. Customer story number 2, and this is actually a remote access story. This is a mining organization in Western Australia. They had no corporate sanctioned security solution for OT remote access. And the IT manager said, look, if we don't provide a sanctioned solution, the sites are going to do their own thing anyway, which is going to be less secure and less safe. So they realized the best practice for them is actually to provide a corporate sanctioned remote access solution. So then they've got the ability to look for, deploy Claroty, to look for non-sanctioned solutions and turn them off. So they deployed Claroty secure access to their critical sites. The really useful feature for them was actually our secure file transfer we offer over this, because they were using a legacy FTP link that had no monitoring on it. People were just uploading files. There was no scanning happening of people uploading these files into OT. So they recognized the risk of a malware outbreak. Now with our secure access solution, they can upload files through secure access. It happens via Claroty, and they actually integrate it with their CrowdStrike ICAP server, so they can scan the files for malware using their AV before those files hit the OT environment. So integrations. There's a lot of third-party integrations we've got. Some of the key ones are ServiceNow, Fortinet, and CrowdStrike. There's a range of others we can integrate with, and we've also got REST API to allow for custom integrations, things like that. But it means that we're not just an isolated solution, we're integrating with these other technologies to provide more value. Certainly with Fortinet, we can send policy recommendations that you can then implement in your FortiGate firewalls in an OT environment, for example. So I know you're probably asking as well, there's a couple of other players in our space. What are the key strengths Claroty offers? So there's a few bullet points, and this is great if customers ask them for you as well, is we give uniform visibility, not just on your OT, but across all the other cyber physical infrastructure like IoT, as well as healthcare clinical environments. So we're one vendor you can work with to cover all those use cases for your customers. Our platform covers both asset risk visibility as well as secure access and threat detection. So you've got, not just a couple of, a point solution. We have to bring in other vendors to do remote access, things like that. We can cover a lot more of the, the use cases someone will have in OT. Certainly, though, we're not an IT cybersecurity platform. So, there's one vulnerability scanner that's quite good in IT and has an OT solution. Sometimes customers go, look, I want one technology for both. If they want to do that, then, hey, Claroty's not going to cover the IT. We're unapologetic about the fact that we cover all cyber physical systems, but there's plenty of technologies already in the IT space. The reason we exist in the OT space is because the protocols are different, the considerations are different. You have to do a lot less active scanning, or you have to do active scanning in a safer way. And there's ways that we do that we can certainly dig into for those who want to learn more in a subsequent discussion. We can collect data spanlessly if needed. So, certainly we're seeing more interest in, I don't want to put boxes out at every, retail site, for example, because a lot of large retailers have a lot of IoT infrastructure. Well, that's fine. We can integrate with the LDAP servers, with a CrowdStrike server, ingest like net flows and things like that. And we don't need to put boxes on the network to scan passively if that's cost prohibitive or if it's not realistic given the environment. You have the flexibility to consume is on-premise or a SaaS solution for both of our technologies. So some customers who want to go cloud first for OT, we can furnish that. If they go, no, our strategy right now is to be fully on-premise, we can do that as well and even operate in totally isolated environments and help customers validate that, yes, that environment is isolated because Claroty's demonstrating there's no external internet connectivity. We have multiple data collection methods, including active and passive. One great passive data collection example is ingesting OT project backup files. You can get a significant amount of data out of those without having to actively scan devices, for example. And we've got a couple of customers in the US where that is the primary data collection method. They're not putting hardware anywhere. They're just turning on Claroty SaaS, connecting it to things like their Rockwell Asset Inventory Manager and getting all that project asset data and correlating that with cyber risk based on, where the key vulnerabilities are. The other thing I mentioned earlier, we have technical support and engineering people based in Australia, so you have a good local team. It's not like you're going to have to, coordinate calls with difficult time zones. And our focus is purely on cyber physical systems. As I mentioned, we're not an IT cyber vendor now getting in the OT space. We've always been in the OT space. Marcus, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. That was actually a really great overview of what we're really looking at when we're looking at OT. And of course, to back all of this up, we know that this introduction to the OT journey can be a lot to begin with for some people. So to assist our partners with delivering the best service possible to their customers, and as Leon mentioned, best practice is really important. Claroty have a really robust partner program. We understand the critical importance of securing operational technology environments, and that's why Claroty have developed the Claroty Partner Program, which is designed to provide our partners with the tools and the resources and the support that they need to succeed in assisting customers on their OT journey. And the program features 3 distinct tiers: Elite, Premier, and Authorized, each tier offering a different range of benefits tailored to meet the unique needs of our partners. And this partner program will look very similar to other partner programs that you've seen through the Wavelink distribution channel. So it shouldn't be too unfamiliar to many people, but as a Claroty partner, you're going to gain access to a lot of valuable resources. First one being fast deal registration to quickly register all of your deals and receive very, very prompt support from Claroty executives as you do it through the portal. You're going to have access to sales and marketing resources as well, so you can very much utilize Claroty's comprehensive sales enablement and marketing materials to build your pipeline out. They've also got availability of training and certification. So you do have the ability to enhance your team's skills with self-paced modules and a lot of certifications to elevate your understanding of what this threat landscape looks like. And definitely one of the really important ones is access to an MDF. You can leverage some funds to support your marketing and business development activities, and this pairs really, really nicely with their very, very easy to use partner portal that just gives a really super basic, streamlined one-stop shop for everything that you need to succeed, not only with Claroty, but just on your OT journey. Next slide, please, Leon. And I did briefly mention training before, and we know that hands-on training is invaluable to a lot of people. So Claroty also has a really, really amazing offering for your SEs and your pre-sales engineers, which is the Claroty Defenders Training Workshop. It's currently a 2-day workshop course. We just ran one in Sydney, and we have another one coming up very, very shortly in Melbourne. The dates are just up on the slide. We've just confirmed them. It's completely free for partners, and it really focuses on scaling partner pre-sales technical capabilities to get our partners a lot more comfortable with positioning Claroty. It's really highly focused on product deep dives and guided demos. So even if you've been working with Claroty for a while, you've been in the OT space for a bit, or you're just getting started on your OT journey, you can get a lot out of these training sessions. And the feedback that we've had on previous sessions has been outstanding, and it allows you to work with the product and ask questions in an open forum with Claroty and other pre-sales and SE resources around you. This workshop also includes Claroty's healthcare offering as well. So today we're just talking about industrial, but with our Defenders training, we do have access to that information too. So it's not just applicable to individuals who work in the industrial landscape as well. So Leon, our SEM pre-sales people here will be interacting with customers, as we mentioned, who won't really know where to begin. And that's okay. Both the vendor and the disty are definitely here to help. But what are some power questions that our audience here can ask to gauge some more specific requirements of our partners and our customers?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Marcus. And yeah, look, I want to acknowledge, having worked at, different vendors, not just Claroty, we're not expecting you to just go out on your own and bring us opportunities and close them for us day one. Obviously, we'd love to get partners up to that stage, and the partners that get that capability are going to be getting a lot more of the lead flow of deals of people who, come in and want to talk to Claroty. But these are some great starting points with existing customers where you have that relationship to just open the door to that conversation. And then if you open the door to that conversation and bring Claroty in, as far as I'm concerned, you've earned your deal, Reg, even if we do all the work from here, because you'll be able to sit, right along with us as we help you execute the sales process and, map the competitive landscape and win the deal. And that'll help you on the next one and the one after that, where you start to get more comfortable driving these opportunities yourself. So some great starting points. Number one, where are you at with OT and IoT security in your organization? And the answer you'll probably get to that is, we know we need to do something, but we're not sure where to start. Or, yeah, we bought something a couple of years ago, but I don't know if it's really giving us the value it should be. Maybe it's sending too many alerts. Maybe it's quite quiet. Have they done anything to reduce their cyber risk as a result? Probably not. And then the next question to ask is, do you have a relationship with those OT asset owners? And you can talk about, in Claroty's experience, the key to success is not actually whether or not you buy Claroty. It's about whether or not you drive these kinds of projects with those OT asset owners involved and actually own the program jointly. The next question to ask is, do they have 100% accurate asset inventory of their OT and IoT assets? The answer again to that is going to be probably no. And then finally, would you like Claroty to share some best practices around cyber physical security journey and an OT cybersecurity journey? And some of you may know me already. Like, if you bring us in an opportunity, my philosophy is I'll play the role you want me to play. If you want me to just come in and just do a very clear, demo with one of the engineers, I'm happy to do that. If you want me to have a non-salesy conversation just presenting about the journey, I'm happy to do that as well. If you own that customer relationship, I'll play the role you want me to play in terms of helping us both get a deal in the customer and build out your OT cybersecurity practice. I'm here to help you how you need my help. So those are a couple of good power questions to ask, and hopefully some of the different nuggets and stories I've shared are useful things just to socialize with customers about what else we're seeing in the market. And that's why as well, I also have a YouTube channel where I make short form videos, 30 seconds each about OT cybersecurity. They're not about Claroty. They're not about, they're not salesy. It's more about, hey, here's some things to think about in terms of OT cybersecurity, because it is not a very mature space. And a lot of even CISOs in industrial organizations are looking for guidance. So it's a great opportunity to have a more educational conversation versus a sales kind of conversation. So in terms of what you can do next in a call to action, so certainly those customers you have already that have an OT or an IoT or a healthcare network, ask them how they're securing that infrastructure, where they're at on the journey, whether they've got SOC obligations they need to meet. Invite them to learn more about Claroty, how Claroty can help. And certainly that might be you just give me a call and, Marcus, happy for you to share my details. I mean, connect with me on LinkedIn. My number's on there. You can call me if you want. How to help meet their obligations. Invite them to learn about how Claroty might be able to help them. Us or Wavelink will help, come to that first meeting, help you register the deal and qualify the opportunity. We'll help you through the whole sales process. And certainly follow me on YouTube if you want to learn more. XIOT Cyber is my YouTube handle. There's about 60 videos on there now from memory about different OT cybersecurity topics. Just some useful nuggets to share. If someone says, oh, what about secure access, or my network's air gap, I don't need to worry about it. There's videos about all kinds of different OT cybersecurity topics that you might want to share with someone if it comes up in a meeting. And I think now, Marcus, it's Q&A time.
It's Q&A time. So we have had some questions come through the registration process. So we'll answer a couple of those questions. The first one, which many people do ask, of course, is what firewalls does Claroty integrate with? And we did briefly touch on it before. But of course, Claroty integrates with several firewalls to enhance, cybersecurity for your industrial and operational technology environments. And I think, Leon, you'll probably agree. Claroty has a lot of integrations, but the most important point when we're talking about integrations is seamless integrations. We never want to disrupt any current operations that we've currently got. We want Claroty to go in to your current OT environment and not disrupt any of the business operations that we've currently got going on, but enhance the visibility, because we can't really secure what we can't see, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Marcus. And probably one of the key things I also clarify with people is secure access is a control, and basically that's zero trust for OT access. But our XDome and CTD solutions, which do the asset and risk discovery and threat detection, they are not controls. They're purely passive technologies giving you information. The only thing actively they do is safe active scanning in some cases, but that again is optional and very tightly controlled. We don't block things automatically or automatically push policy or send instructions to firewalls. In terms of firewall integration, all the major firewall vendors, we can push policy recommendations that can then be implemented, but we're never going to automate something. It's going to be automate with approval, or take that policy, that rule recommendation, review it with your firewall change team, and then implement that if they agree it's the right approach. It's the same thing with incident response. You're not likely to do automated incident response in OT. The most likely first response type activity when you talk about incident response in OT is to call whoever that cybersecurity champion is at that particular OT asset, tell them what you've seen, and start to diagnose how you might respond to that particular incident. You're not going to isolate something that could be compromised if it's potentially a critical safety system that might result in, a safety issue, for example, at the plant. So these are the kinds of different considerations that are totally different to the IT world, and it's a different kind of language and way of doing things. And that's, I think, something we naturally talk about as part of our domain expertise.
Yeah, I think so. And of course, if you do want to learn more about how Clarity really seamlessly integrates with a lot of new generation firewalls, you can obviously find heaps of data sheets and solution briefs on Clarity's website and Wavelink's website. You can also reach out to myself, the enablement team, our pre-sales team, Leon, and the Clarity team if you do want to have a further conversation about how Clarity may be able to benefit your current solution. Because once again, we don't want to disrupt any of the current business operation within an OT environment. We want to enhance the visibility. So you'll find integrations with, of course, Fortinet's FortiGate and FortiSeam and plenty of other vendors as well. Another question that we got through our registrations is, what are three unique and compelling client user experience led differentiators over the other key competitors?
Yeah,
Leon, did you?
no, that's a great one.
Yep.
Yeah, and look, I do get that asked a lot by customers, and like a lot of vendors. I'm not into vendor bashing, but sort of what are the key reasons why people choose Clarity, in terms of why do we win deals? Number one, I'd say, is the comprehensive asset discovery and protocol support. There's a lot of different kinds of protocols out there. We have very tight relationships with a lot of the industrial automation vendors like Rockwell and Siemens and Schneider and Yokogawa. And some of those companies have actually invested in Clarity in our fundraising rounds. So they have a vested interest in us being the technology of choice with their customers, and they use it internally as well as selling it to their customers in many cases. I'd say that's number one. Number two is just the breadth of capability across not just pure OT or the industrial IoT, and as well as healthcare environments. So, healthcare and OT tend to be, they don't tend to coexist, but both of those kinds of environments have a lot more IoT infrastructure that are still cyber physical systems, and they're still connected physical processes. So if you think about a typical, factory, for example, you've got HVAC, you've got building management systems, you've got access gates, you've got CCTV cameras, all these different, you've got sensors, all kinds of different IoT technologies that sit outside the SCADA PCN environment, but it still won't be sitting on the same network. It's still a cyber physical risk. And so we can see all that infrastructure and be able to help customers prioritize, whether to focus on remediating vulnerabilities or putting all the CCTV cameras on a totally separate VLAN or zone of the network. It just depends on how we see those key risks, and then the customer getting those recommendations and prioritizing what they do. The third key differentiator, and you asked for three, so I'll give you three. Three is a good number. The third key differentiator is the fact that it's not just a sensing, risk and threat detection tool, but also the fact that we also provide a secure access solution. And I would say, actually, what I've seen over the last 12 months is there's more initial interest in that secure access versus the threat detection and risk management, because, particularly on the plant side, people recognize that as a bigger problem of unauthorized access. And the solutions can be operated in isolation, but they also work together. And so you can deliver that, secure access solution to a customer who needs something right now or wants to just get rid of their jump box and VPN complexity, but then also go, we can provide assurance that no one's using an unsanctioned remote access solution by turning on Clarity X-Dome, for example. And then we can see whether there's any other unauthorized external connections out there. So these are kind of the ways that we can provide a more comprehensive capability than just dropping in a tool and flooding someone with alerts that they, don't know what to do. There's a lot more business context to what we do, and the comprehensive platform and coverage gives you that capability. Certainly, the business driver is going to be different on a case by case with customers, which is why I like to show them that customer journey slide, because one of those sort of choose your own adventure options will jump out to them. Some will go, hey, we got a real problem about vulnerabilities in OT because we're flying blind right now, was a phrase someone used. Other times they'll go, look, right now we want to get an asset inventory so that the plant people can operate more efficiently and more effectively, and that's that day one for them. So it helps kind of understand where the customer's key business drivers and pain are. You can align to that, and that's your first phase of the program. Plus, you can build a long-term vision with them. So yeah, that slide has really resonated with a lot of customers in presentations I've used, and certainly it's a great way to have a non-sales conversation, educate them, and then go, well, hey, we're going to help you get on that journey. Guess what? Claroty's not in the consulting business, but if you are, you can help take them on that journey using Claroty as the vehicle.
Yep, 100%. Another question that, as a disty, we get quite a lot when we have conversations about OT with a lot of our partners. And another one, that's definitely come through is, if my new generation firewall is so safe and it's so secure, why would I even need Claroty to begin with? What gap does Claroty really fill when we're talking about OT?
Yeah, that's a great one, Marcus. And I think it comes back to, it's similar to the conversation of, well, I've air gapped my network, so I don't need to monitor it. It's providing that assurance and validating that, okay, I've got this control in place. Is the control working? So critical controls verification is a use case that will sometimes come up. The other point I'd make is that, okay, network risk is one area, and Claroty is the visibility and assurance, and your firewall vendor, hopefully Fortinet, through your friends at Wavelink, is the control. But there's a whole bunch of other use cases that our firewall won't help you with, like critical vulnerabilities, and whether there's some kind of unauthorized connection behind the firewall within the OT environment that might be exploiting a vulnerability. How do we know that? We know that because Claroty is continuously monitoring the environment, looking at the assets, and looking at the network activity. So those are some examples of where it's not like you don't need firewalls if you've got Claroty. The solutions work together, but equally having a good network segmentation solution in place, or even some level of air gap. Nothing's really air gapped 100%, but a good network security control in place, complemented with a visibility and critical controls verification. The other point I'd make is the insider threat. So an unauthorized change by an authorized user, for example, using a shared login of someone who left 2 years ago, making an authorized change, we can see what happened, see those events on the network, and alert you, as well as where it started and what the impact has been. So those are the kinds of interesting use case. Little detailed, but certainly these are the sorts of things we dig into as customers start to get their heads around the problem and how to solve it.
Awesome. No, thank you so much for that. We do have 5 minutes left, but I think we're going to wrap up this webinar now. So just some key takeaway points. Please do reach out to either Wavelink or Claroty if you do need any assistance with anything. We are both here to help. After this webinar, please feel free to reach out to our sales team, our pre-sales team, or connect with us on LinkedIn, and we're definitely more than happy to help with the complete OT journey from start to finish, wherever you're at. We will slowly have some more Claroty content coming out through the channel, so there'll definitely be some more information that's being pushed through. Definitely do have a look at the Claroty Defenders training, because it is some invaluable experience with the product, hands-on. And yeah, I think we're done. Thank you so much, Leon, for joining me on this webinar. I think this has been absolutely great as an introductory to OT and just getting people aware of what we're looking at when we're talking about OT. Yeah, do you have any final comments?
I just want to say thanks a lot to Wavelink for hosting me, and for all those on the call who haven't met me yet, love to chat and see how we can help you sell Claroty to your customers and build out an OT cybersecurity practice. That's what we're here to help you do, and we're just one piece of the puzzle.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Very much appreciated. If you do have any questions, please feel free to email them through to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.